They swore never to awaken Nightborne, but humanity chose extinction or victory. The ancient warning echoed through the emergency session of the Galactic Council, spoken in the archaic tongue of the Zephyrian Collective. Never wake the Nightborne, for they are the end of all things. Ambassador Kira Voss of the Terran Federation stood before the assembled delegates, her hands trembling as she held the decoded message that had changed everything. The council chamber, a massive crystalline dome orbiting the neutral world of Nexus Prime, buzzed with nervous energy. Representatives from 47 species filled the curved tiers, their various forms of communication creating a symphony of clicks, whistles, and electronic pulses that the universal translators struggled to process. "The Devourers have broken through the outer rim," Kira announced, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic enhancement systems. 17 systems have gone dark in the past 72 hours. The Kalari Defense Fleet, 3,000 ships, vanished without sending a single distress signal. High Councillor Thane of the Valorian Republic, his blue-scaled features etched with centuries of diplomatic experience, leaned forward in his biopod. "Ambassador Voss, you speak of the Devourers as if they were more than legend. Our archives show no credible encounters with this supposed species for over 10,000 years." "Because they consume everything," Kira replied, activating the holographic display at the chamber's center. The image showed a star system, its planets reduced to lifeless husks stripped of all biological matter. "They don't conquer. They don't enslave. They harvest. Every living cell, every organic molecule, every trace of life. Gone." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The Devourers weren't just another aggressive species seeking territory or resources. They were a force of nature, a cosmic plague that had awakened from whatever deep void had contained them for millennia. "Our xenobiologists estimate that at their current rate of consumption, they'll reach the core worlds within 6 months, Kira continued. "The mathematical models are clear. There is no defense against them. No weapon we possess can stop them. No strategy in our databases offers hope." Councillor Veltar of the crystalline hegemony, her translucent form shimmering with agitation, spoke through harmonic resonance. "Then why do you bring us this despair, human? If death is inevitable, why prolong the agony?" Kira's expression hardened. "Because there is one option left. One that every species in this chamber has sworn never to consider." She paused, letting the weight of her words settle. "The Nightborne." The reaction was immediate and explosive. Species that had maintained diplomatic silence for centuries suddenly erupted in angry protests. The Zephyrians' feathers ruffled in patterns that indicated mortal terror. The aquatic collective's bioluminescent displays flashed warning colors that painted the chamber in ominous hues. "Absolutely not," Councillor Thane declared, his voice carrying the authority of a civilization that had survived 3 galactic wars. "The Nightborne Accords were signed in the blood of 1,000,000,000,000 souls. Every species in this chamber swore that oath. They are never to be awakened." "Even if it means extinction?" Kira challenged. "Even if it means watching every world burn while we cling to ancient fears?" The chamber erupted in chaos. Delegates argued in languages that predated the formation of the Council. Emergency protocols activated as several species threatened to withdraw from the session entirely. Through it all, Kira stood motionless, waiting for the storm to pass. Finally, Elder Sorrow of the ethereal commune spoke, her voice carrying the weight of ages. "Tell them the truth about the Nightborne, human. Tell them what your archaeologists discovered in the Forbidden Zone." Kira nodded grimly. 3 months ago, our deep space exploration vessel Horizon's Edge discovered a derelict station in the Blackwater Nebula. The station predated any known civilization by at least 50,000 years. Inside we found records, archives, the complete history of the Nightborne War. She activated a new holographic display, showing ancient star charts marked with symbols that seemed to writhe and shift, even in static projection. The Nightborne weren't the monsters we've been told they were. They were the ultimate weapon, created by a coalition of species to fight something far worse than themselves. They were designed to be the perfect predators, the absolute killers, the beings that could hunt anything in the universe. And they succeeded. Councillor Thane said quietly. They destroyed their creators and everything else they encountered. The entire galactic core was rendered uninhabitable. Billions of worlds became graveyards. Because they were used incorrectly, Kira insisted. The ancient records showed that the Nightborne were never meant to be unleashed without constraints. They were biological weapons with built-in psychological triggers. They could be controlled, directed, if you understood their nature. The chamber fell silent except for the hum of life support systems and the distant whisper of cosmic radiation against the station's shields. Finally, Councillor Veltar spoke. And you believe humanity possesses this understanding? We believe we have no choice but to try, Kira replied. The Devourers will reach Earth in 4 months. Our colony worlds are already evacuating. In 6 months, every species in this chamber will be extinct. The Nightborne represent the only weapon that has ever successfully stopped a galaxy-scale threat. Elder Sorrow's form shimmered with what might have been resignation. The Nightborne prison is located in the Abyss sector, within the event horizon of the collapsed star Erebus. No ship has ever returned from those coordinates. Our long-range sensors have detected the installation, Kira said. It's still intact. The stasis fields are still active. The Nightborne are waiting. Waiting to destroy us all, Councillor Thane said flatly. The moment those stasis fields deactivate, every living thing in the galaxy becomes prey. You speak of control, but the ancient records you reference are 50,000 years old. The technology, the knowledge, the very languages used to create their psychological constraints, all lost to time. Kira straightened, her resolve visible in every line of her body. Then we'll have to improvise. Humanity has always been good at that. 3 days later, the Terran Federation's most advanced stealth vessel, the Prometheus Unbound, slipped through the quantum foam at the edge of the Abyss sector. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge, watching the impossible sight of a star collapsed into a perfect sphere of absolute darkness. The event horizon shimmered like black glass, bending light and reality around its edges. Gravitational readings are off the charts, reported Navigation Officer Zara Okafor. The tidal forces should be tearing us apart, but the exotic matter in our hull is holding. For now. Dr. Alex Rivera, the expedition's xenobiologist, studied the sensor readings with growing amazement. The prison installation is definitely there. It's using some kind of gravitational anchor to maintain position just outside the event horizon. The engineering required to build something like that is beyond anything we understand, finished Chief Engineer Dmitry Volkov. The power requirements alone should be impossible. Whatever's keeping that station operational has been running continuously for millennia. Captain Chen nodded grimly. Bridge to all departments. We're approaching the point of no return. Once we cross the gravity well threshold, there's no going back. The Devourers are 12 hours behind us. If we don't succeed here, they'll consume Earth before we can mount any other defense. The Prometheus Unbound descended into the gravity well, its hull creaking under stresses that would have crushed conventional vessels. The ship's revolutionary metamaterial construction had been designed specifically for this mission, a hull that could adapt to extreme conditions, life support systems that could function in impossible environments, and weapons that had never been tested against living targets. The prison installation emerged from the cosmic darkness like a nightmare made real. It was massive beyond comprehension, a structure that dwarfed planets and stretched across impossible distances. Thousands of cylindrical chambers were arranged in perfect geometric patterns, each one containing a single stasis field that pulsed with ominous red light. "Jesus," whispered Communications Officer Jordan Blake. "How many are there?" Dr. Rivera's voice was barely audible. Scans indicate approximately 50,000 individual containment units, each one holding a single Nightborne specimen. Captain Chen felt ice form in her veins. The ancient records had mentioned hundreds of Nightborne, not tens of thousands. "Dr. Rivera, run a deep scan on the nearest containment unit. I want to know exactly what we're dealing with." The ship's quantum sensors penetrated the stasis field, revealing the creature within. The Nightborne was humanoid in basic shape, but wrong in every detail. Its limbs were too long, its joints bent at impossible angles, and its skin seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Most disturbing were its eyes, dozens of them, arranged in perfect spirals across its face and torso, each one tracking the scanning beam with predatory intelligence. "It's awake," Dr. Rivera said, his voice hollow with shock. "The stasis field is maintaining its body in temporal suspension, but its consciousness is fully active. It's been aware for 50,000 years." The implications hit everyone simultaneously. The Nightborne hadn't been sleeping. They had been imprisoned, conscious and waiting, for longer than human civilization had existed. The psychological profile of such beings was beyond comprehension. "Captain," Jordan Blake called from the communications station. "I'm picking up something. It's not exactly a signal, but there's definitely organized information flowing between the containment units. They're talking to each other." Before Captain Chen could respond, the ship's main display activated on its own. The image that appeared was the same Nightborne they had scanned, but now it was looking directly at them. When it spoke, its voice bypassed the translation systems entirely, speaking in perfect, unaccented English. "Humans." The word carried undertones of curiosity and hunger. "We have been waiting for you." Captain Chen stepped forward, drawing on every ounce of diplomatic training she possessed. "I am Captain Maya Chen of the Terran Federation. We've come seeking your help against the Devourers." The Nightborne's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, creating a hypnotic pattern. "The Devourers. Yes, we remember them. They were our prey once, before the lesser species imprisoned us here. They have returned, have they not?" "Yes," Captain Chen confirmed. "They've consumed 17 systems in the past week. Nothing can stop them." "Nothing except us," the Nightborne agreed. "But why should we help you? Why should we not simply consume you when we are freed, as we consumed our creators?" Dr. Rivera stepped forward, his hands shaking as he accessed his research files. "Because we know what you are. We know why you were created. You're not monsters, you're antibodies. The galaxy creates species like you when it faces existential threats. You exist to maintain the balance." The Nightborne's expression shifted, showing something that might have been surprise. "You understand our nature? Interesting. The ancient coalition that created us never grasped this truth. They saw us only as weapons to be aimed at their enemies." "We've studied the historical records," Captain Chen said. "The Nightborne War wasn't your fault. Your creators lost control because they tried to use you for conquest rather than defense. They violated your essential nature. And you believe you can do better?" The Nightborne's voice carried amusement and skepticism in equal measure. "You would release 50,000 apex predators and trust them to hunt only specific prey." Chief Engineer Volkov spoke up, his Russian accent thick with tension. "We've developed a containment protocol based on quantum entanglement. Each released Nightborne would be linked to a human controller. If the controller's biometric signature flatlines, the Nightborne immediately returns to stasis." The Nightborne considered this. "A dead man's switch," crude but effective. And who would serve as these controllers? Volunteers from our military, Captain Chen replied. Soldiers who understand the risks and accept them willingly. Soldiers who understand they must die if we prove uncontrollable, the Nightborne corrected. You ask much of your species. We ask for survival, Captain Chen said simply. The Devourers will extinguish every spark of consciousness in the galaxy. We'd rather die fighting than live as cattle. The Nightborne's eyes closed in unison, and for a moment the only sound was the hum of the ship's systems. When they opened again, something had changed in their expression. We will consider your proposal, but first, you must prove your species possesses the strength to be our partners rather than our prey. The ship's sensors screamed warnings as something massive emerged from the event horizon behind them. The Devourer scout ship was unlike anything in the Federation's databases, a living vessel that pulsed with bioluminescent patterns, its hull covered in sensory organs that tracked every movement of the Prometheus Unbound. They followed us, Navigation Officer Okafor said, her voice tight with fear. The Devourers found us. The scout ship was enormous, easily 10 times the size of the Prometheus Unbound, and it moved with the fluid grace of a predator. Sensor sweeps revealed that its hull was actually composed of living tissue, grown rather than built, and its weapons were biological launchers that could fire projectiles at relativistic speeds. They're scanning the prison installation, Dr. Rivera reported, and they're transmitting data back to their main fleet. If that signal gets through, the Devourers will know about the Nightborne. Captain Chen made the decision that would define the rest of the encounter. All hands, battle stations. We're going to stop that transmission. The Prometheus. Unbound was a stealth vessel, designed for reconnaissance rather than combat. Its weapons were minimal, quantum torpedo launchers and particle beam arrays that had never been tested against living targets. Against the massive Devourer scout ship, it seemed laughably outgunned. But Captain Chen had something the Devourers didn't expect: desperation and human ingenuity. Chief Volkov, can you overload the quantum drive? She asked. The engineer's face went pale. Captain, a quantum drive overload would create a singularity. We'd be vaporized instantly. But so would everything else within 50,000 kilometers, Captain Chen replied, including that scout ship. The Nightborne's voice filled the bridge, somehow bypassing the communication systems entirely. You would sacrifice yourselves to protect a galaxy that fears you, even knowing we might betray you the moment we're freed. That's what humans do, Captain Chen said simply. We protect others, even when it costs us everything. The Nightborne fell silent, but Captain Chen could feel its attention like a physical weight. The creature was evaluating not just her words, but her species' fundamental nature. The Devourer scout ship completed its scan and began charging its biological weapons. The Prometheus Unbound had perhaps 30 seconds before the first volley would reduce it to constituent atoms. Chief Volkov, initiate quantum drive overload, Captain Chen ordered. All hands, prepare for— Wait! The Nightborne's voice stopped her cold. Your sacrifice is noted and appreciated, but unnecessary. The stasis field around the nearest containment unit flickered and died. The Nightborne inside moved for the first time in 50,000 years, its impossible anatomy unfolding with fluid grace. But instead of breaking free, it pressed its hands against the containment unit's inner surface and began to change. The transformation was horrifying and beautiful simultaneously. The Nightborne's body became translucent, then transparent, then seemed to dissolve into pure energy. That energy flowed through the station's systems, awakening technologies that had slumbered for millennia. Ancient weapon systems came online with a sound like the universe screaming. Beam projectors the size of city blocks swiveled to track the Devourer scout ship. Missile launchers that could fire planet killers prepared to engage. But the Nightborne didn't attack. Instead, it spoke to the Devourer in a language that predated both species, a fundamental communication that bypassed sound and meaning to touch consciousness directly. The effect was immediate and absolute. The Devourer scout ship stopped moving, its bioluminescent patterns shifting from aggressive hunting displays to something resembling terror. The massive vessel began to retreat, backing away from the prison installation with what could only be described as panic. "It's running," Dr. Rivera said in amazement. "The Devourer is actually running away." The Nightborne materialized on the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound, its form more solid than before, but still unsettling in its alien perfection. "The Devourers remember us," it said. "They know what we are capable of, but they also know we have been imprisoned for 50,000 years. They will return with their entire fleet to destroy us before we can fully awaken." "How long do we have?" Captain Chen asked. 6 hours, the Nightborne replied. "Perhaps less. The Devourer main fleet consists of over 1 million bioships. Even fully awakened, 50,000 Nightborne could not defeat such numbers through conventional warfare." Chief Engineer Volkov looked up from his instruments. "Captain, the quantum entanglement system is ready. We can begin the awakening process immediately." The Nightborne studied the human crew with its multitude of eyes. "You still wish to proceed? Knowing that we might fail? Knowing that if we succeed, we will become the dominant species in the galaxy?" Captain Chen met the creature's gaze without flinching. "We've always known we weren't the strongest species in the galaxy. We've always known we weren't the smartest, or the most advanced, or the most numerous. But we've never let that stop us from doing what was right." "And what do you believe is right in this situation?" "Fighting," Captain Chen said simply. "Fighting for every world, every species, every life that the Devourers want to consume. Fighting until there's nothing left to fight with." The Nightborne's expression shifted, showing something that might have been respect. "Very well. We will accept your proposal. But understand, once we are awakened, there is no going back. The galaxy will never be the same." "It won't be the same if the Devourers consume it either," Captain Chen replied. "At least this way, something survives." The awakening process began with a sound like reality tearing apart. Each containment unit required a specific quantum frequency to disable its stasis field, and the Prometheus Unbound's computers worked frantically to calculate the necessary sequences. As each field collapsed, another Nightborne stirred to life after 50 millennia of conscious imprisonment. The psychological profiles of the awakening creatures were beyond human comprehension. Each one had spent longer in solitary confinement than human civilization had existed, their minds preserved in perfect clarity while their bodies remained frozen in time. They should have been insane, driven mad by the endless isolation. Instead, they were something else entirely. The Nightborne emerged from their prisons not as broken victims, but as perfected predators, their consciousness honed to a razor's edge by 50,000 years of contemplation. They had used their imprisonment not to despair, but to evolve, to become something more than their creators had ever intended. "The quantum entanglement links are establishing," reported Chief Volkov. "Each Nightborne is now connected to a human controller. If any controller's life signs fail, their linked Nightborne will immediately return to stasis." Captain Chen nodded, then activated the ship's communication system. "This is Captain Chen to all Federation vessels. Operation Nightfall is now active. All volunteer controllers, report to your assigned stations." Throughout the galaxy, human military personnel took their positions at quantum communication consoles. Each one had volunteered for what was essentially a suicide mission, to serve as the conscience and constraint for one of the most dangerous beings in the universe. They understood that their deaths would be the only thing preventing the Nightborne from turning on their allies. The first wave of awakened Nightborne emerged from the prison installation like shadows given form. They moved through space without ships, their bodies somehow adapted to survive in the vacuum between stars. They were graceful and terrifying, ancient predators returning to a galaxy that had forgotten their existence. As they spread out through the Abyss sector, the Devourer fleet arrived. The sight of 1 million bioships emerging from hyperspace was unlike anything in recorded history. Each vessel was a living creature the size of a city, its hull pulsing with bioluminescent organs that served as both sensors and weapons. They moved in perfect coordination, a swarm intelligence that had consumed thousands of civilizations. The Nightborne met them in open space, 50,000 against 1 million, and the battle that followed would be remembered for as long as consciousness existed in the universe. The Devourers had expected conventional warfare, ships firing weapons, energy shields deflecting attacks, the mathematics of superior numbers determining the outcome. Instead, they faced something that defied every tactical assumption. The Nightborne didn't fight like any species the Devourers had encountered. They phased through hull plating as if it were mist, appeared inside enemy vessels without warning, and seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. They were more than predators. They were living nightmares that turned the Devourer's own biology against them. Captain Chen watched the battle from the Prometheus Unbound, her ship's sensors struggling to track the impossible movements of the Nightborne. "Dr. Rivera, what exactly are we seeing here?" The xenobiologist's voice was filled with awe and terror. "They're not just killing the Devourers, they're rewriting them, changing their genetic structure in real time. The Nightborne aren't just weapons, they're living evolutionary pressure." The truth of the Nightborne's nature became clear as the battle progressed. They weren't destroying the Devourer fleet so much as converting it. Each bioship they touched began to change, its bioluminescent patterns shifting from the aggressive hunting displays of the Devourers to something else entirely. "They're turning them into something new," Dr. Rivera said in wonder. "The Nightborne are actually healing the Devourers, removing whatever corruption made them consume everything in their path." The battle lasted for 6 hours, but it wasn't a battle in any conventional sense. It was a transformation on a scale that dwarfed anything in galactic history. When it ended, the Devourer fleet still existed, but it was no longer a threat. The million bioships had become something else, a new form of life that existed in harmony with the cosmic ecosystem rather than consuming it. The Nightborne returned to the prison installation, their mission complete. But they didn't return to stasis. Instead, they gathered around the Prometheus Unbound, their multitude of eyes fixed on Captain Chen. "It is done," the first Nightborne said. "The Devourers have been restored to their original nature. They will trouble the galaxy no more." Captain Chen felt a mixture of relief and trepidation. "And now? What happens to the Nightborne?" "That depends on humanity," the creature replied. "We have tasted freedom after 50,000 years of imprisonment. We have no wish to return to our cages, but we also have no wish to become the monsters the galaxy fears." "Then don't," Captain Chen said simply. "Become something else. Become what you were always meant to be." The Nightborne considered this for a long moment. "And what do you believe we were meant to be?" "Guardians," Captain Chen replied. "Not weapons, not conquerors, but guardians. The galaxy's immune system. The force that maintains balance when everything else fails." The Nightborne's multiple eyes blinked in sequence, a pattern that somehow conveyed deep thought. "Guardians? Yes. That is acceptable. But we will need partners. Allies who understand our nature and can help us remain connected to the values of civilization." Humanity volunteers for that role, Captain Chen said without hesitation. Even knowing the risks, even knowing that we might one day turn on you. Captain Chen smiled, the first genuine expression of joy she had felt in months. We've always specialized in dangerous partnerships. Besides, someone has to keep the galaxy's apex predators honest. The Nightborne's expression shifted, showing what might have been amusement. Very well, we accept your offer of partnership. But understand, this alliance will change both our species. We will become something new together, something that has never existed before. That's the best kind of partnership, Captain Chen replied. The kind that makes everyone involved better than they were before. In the weeks that followed, the galaxy struggled to understand what had happened in the Abyss sector. The Devourer threat had vanished overnight, but it had been replaced by something equally unprecedented, a partnership between humanity and the legendary Nightborne. The Galactic Council reconvened in emergency session, but this time the debate was different. Instead of discussing how to contain the Nightborne, they found themselves negotiating with them as equals. The ancient predators had emerged from their imprisonment not as conquering monsters, but as philosophical entities seeking their place in a universe that had changed beyond recognition. Ambassador Kira Voss stood once again before the assembled delegates, but now she was flanked by a Nightborne representative whose presence filled the chamber with an aura of controlled power. The Nightborne Human Alliance formally requests recognition as a galactic peacekeeping force, Kira announced. We propose to serve as mediators in conflicts that threaten the stability of civilized space. High Counselor Thane of the Valorian Republic leaned forward in his biopod. And who would oversee this peacekeeping force? Who would ensure that the Nightborne remain committed to protecting rather than consuming? The Nightborne representative spoke, its voice carrying harmonics that seemed to resonate in the bones of every listener. We will oversee ourselves. We have learned from 50,000 years of imprisonment that power without purpose is mere destruction. We choose purpose. And what purpose is that? Asked Elder Sorrow of the ethereal commune. To ensure that no species faces extinction alone, the Nightborne replied. To stand guard against threats that individual civilizations cannot handle. To be a force that intervenes when all other options have failed. The vote was close, but it passed. The Nightborne Human Alliance was officially recognized as a galactic peacekeeping force with the authority to intervene in conflicts that threatened the stability of civilized space. Captain Chen, now promoted to Admiral, stood on the bridge of the Prometheus Unbound and watched the first joint patrol fleet take formation. Human vessels flew alongside Nightborne entities, creating a force that represented the best of both species, human ingenuity and determination, paired with Nightborne power and wisdom. Admiral? Reported Communications Officer Blake. We're receiving a distress signal from the Kepler sector. Unknown hostiles have attacked a refugee convoy. Admiral Chen smiled, the expression carrying the weight of responsibility and the joy of purpose. Signal the fleet. Set course for the Kepler sector. Maximum speed. Message to transmit to the refugees, Blake asked. Tell them what we always tell them, Admiral Chen replied. Help is on the way. As the Alliance fleet jumped to hyperspace, heading toward another crisis in the vast expanse of space, the galaxy began to understand that something fundamental had changed. The age of inevitable extinction had ended, replaced by something unprecedented. An era where the most dangerous predators in the universe had chosen to become its most dedicated protectors. The Nightborne had awakened, but they had chosen to dream of something better than conquest. And in that choice, they had found partners among a species that had always believed in fighting for others, no matter the cost. The galaxy would never be the same, but for the first time in millennia, it was safe, before you drift back to reality, remember this: every story we share here carries the spirit of human resilience. If this tale sparked something in you, hit that subscribe button and join our community at HFY Stories Pulse. Your next adventure awaits in the suggestions below, or dive into our complete collection through the playlist. Each story is a testament to what makes humanity extraordinary. Until our paths cross again in the next narrative, stay curious, stay brave,